The sky above Earth was a storm of fire and chaos. Alien ships, sleek and massive, hung ominously over the planet's major cities. The Vroken had arrived, and Earth was about to experience a battle unlike anything it had seen before. These aliens, with their powerful weapons and seemingly endless technology, were everything humanity had feared. They had conquered planet after planet in the galaxy, and now they set their sights on Earth, expecting an easy victory. The cities below were in flames, their towering skyscrapers crumbling beneath the weight of orbital bombardments. The Vroken ships unleashed their weapons with brutal precision, turning once thriving urban centers into piles of smoldering rubble. The humans had no way of fighting back, at least not with anything that would match the sheer power of the invaders. Their tanks, fighter jets, and artillery were useless against the Vroken's advanced technology. Humanity had nothing to offer but desperate resistance. The sound of explosions filled the air as military bases were wiped out one by one. The human forces scrambled to organize, retreating to underground bunkers and makeshift outposts. But the Vroken seemed unstoppable. Civilians fled in panic, pouring into whatever shelters they could find. The streets were choked with smoke, and the once vibrant cities now lay in ruin. Bonner, a soldier in the Earth's military, stood amidst the destruction, gripping his rifle tightly. He watched as his comrades fought with everything they had, but it wasn't enough. The Vroken had mastered technology far beyond human comprehension, and their attack was precise and relentless. Bonner could hear the distant screams of civilians, and the sound of his fellow soldiers shouting orders as they fired back at the alien invaders. But the odds were stacked against them. They're not going to win, Bonner thought to himself as he ducked behind the wreckage of a destroyed vehicle. His heart pounded in his chest, and the weight of the situation threatened to crush him. The Vroken were everywhere. Their ships hovered like dark gods in the sky, their weapons turning the ground into molten glass. Even with their most advanced weapons, humanity was fighting an impossible battle. Bonner looked over at his fellow soldiers who were trying to hold their ground. They had no chance. One by one, they fell, their bodies collapsing into the dirt, their weapons useless against the alien onslaught. He could hear the sounds of distant explosions as another city was destroyed, and his mind raced. This was it, the end of humanity. There was no way out, no escape. His only thought now was to keep fighting for as long as he could, even though he knew it would not be enough. He closed his eyes for a moment, trying to steady his breath. His hands were shaking, but then something strange happened. Amidst the chaos and destruction, a sudden signal began to blink on his comms device. It was faint at first, like a whisper in the noise of the battle, but it grew stronger. A coded signal, something human. It was coming from deep space. Bonner froze. For a moment, he wasn't sure if it was just a glitch, a system error, or something more. But the signal was real, and it was unlike anything the Vroken had ever encountered before. The signal was the last thing the Vroken expected to see in the middle of their victory. Humanity's hidden ace. Bonner could feel his heart rate spike, the blood rushing to his ears. Could it be? Had the humans been hiding something all this time? The signal continued to pulse in his earpiece, growing stronger and more defined. It was as if it was calling out to him, urging him to act, to hope. The battle around him raged on, but Bonner's focus was now entirely on the signal. His mind raced. What could it mean? Was this the end of humanity, or was it the beginning of something new? The Vroken had no idea what they were up against. They had assumed humanity was weak, that they could easily crush Earth beneath their feet. But now, with this mysterious signal in the air, everything was about to change. Bonner took a deep breath, feeling a flicker of hope where there had been none before. The Vroken fleet above Earth continued its barrage, seemingly unaware of the human secret that was now unfolding. The signal was unlike anything they could detect, hidden deep within the folds of space. But Bonner knew it was important. There was a possibility that this was humanity's last chance, a final move that might just give them a fighting chance against the overwhelming power of the Vroken. As Bonner stared at the glowing signal, a part of him still couldn't believe what was happening. How could the humans possibly have kept something like this hidden from the aliens? The Vroken had been studying Earth for years, sending probes and gathering intelligence. They should have known everything there was to know about humanity. But this was something else entirely. The signal continued to pulse, and Bonner's mind was made up. He had to find out what it meant. He sprinted across the battlefield, ducking low as explosions shook the ground around him. The Vroken were closing in, but for the first time, Bonner wasn't thinking about how to survive. He was thinking about how to turn the tide. His heart raced as he ran, his thoughts consumed by the possibility that this signal could be the key to humanity's survival. But where had it come from? Who was sending it? And most importantly, why had they waited until now to reveal it? Bonner's mind was a whirlwind of questions, but there was no time to waste. He had to get to the command center, where the military leadership was coordinating the defense. The signal could be the breakthrough they needed, but first they had to understand it. As Bonner approached the command center, he saw that many of his fellow soldiers were already inside, huddled around communication consoles, their faces tense with fear. Everyone was waiting for something to change, waiting for the battle to turn in their favor. But Bonner knew that they needed more than just hope. They needed a plan. He burst into the room, his eyes scanning the faces of the officers who were watching the signal flash on the screens in front of them. "What is this?" Bonner demanded, his voice sharp. One of the officers turned to him, their face pale with disbelief. "It's a human signal," the officer said slowly, as if they couldn't quite comprehend what they were seeing. "It's coming from deep space. It's ours." Bonner felt a surge of adrenaline. It wasn't just a glitch, it was a message from the humans themselves. The room went quiet as everyone waited for what would come next. "What do we do?" Bonner asked, his voice steady now, a newfound determination in his eyes. "We fight back. We fight back with everything we've got." The officer nodded, his eyes filled with a quiet resolve. "We wait for the signal to give us a chance. Then we strike." In that moment, Bonner knew something had changed. The humans weren't done yet. Something big was about to happen, and the Vroken would never see it coming. The war was far from over, but the humans were losing. The Vroken had crushed nearly everything in their path. Their ships hovered menacingly in the sky, their weapons tearing apart anything that dared to resist. Earth's once thriving cities were now nothing more than ruins. Fires raged across the landscape, and the remnants of humanity were struggling to stay alive. The Vroken, with their superior technology and vast numbers, believed victory was inevitable. All they had to do now was finish off the last pockets of resistance. Bonner and his squadron were among the few remaining soldiers fighting to keep the human spirit alive. They had retreated to the dense forests outside the ruined cities, where the Vroken had not yet fully calmed the area. They had little left, only their training, their courage, and the knowledge that if they didn't fight now, humanity would be doomed. Their plan was simple: guerrilla warfare. It was all they could do to slow down the Vroken long enough for something, anything, to turn the tide in their favor. The human forces had managed to acquire cloaking technology, an unexpected breakthrough. It wasn't perfect, but it was enough to give them a brief advantage. Using the cover of darkness and their cloaking devices, Bonner's squadron moved in close to the Vroken camps, prepared to strike where the aliens least expected it. Their goal was not to win outright, but to disrupt the Vroken's plans, to make them question their superiority, even if only for a moment. The humans needed to create a window of opportunity, a window that could potentially turn the entire war around. The tension was unbearable as Bonner and his team moved into position. They crouched low, barely breathing as they waited for the right moment. The night was eerily quiet, the only sound the wind rustling through the trees. Bonner's heart pounded in his chest, his mind racing with the knowledge that failure here meant death, not just for him, but for the whole of humanity. They had no reinforcements, no backup. If they failed, The human resistance would be over. The first strike was swift. Bonner's squadron launched EMP devices at the Vrokan's advanced weaponry, causing the alien guns and drones to short-circuit and shut down. For a brief moment, the Vrokan were vulnerable. The humans took advantage of this, attacking with everything they had: blades, firearms, and whatever else they could get their hands on. It was brutal. Humans charging at Vrokan soldiers in close-quarters combat, dodging laser blasts that sizzled through the air like lightning. The ground shook with explosions as the humans used every scrap of technology and tactics they had to outsmart the enemy. Despite the chaos, the humans were making progress. The Vrokan soldiers, though formidable, seemed caught off guard by the sudden attack. They had assumed their superiority would keep them safe, but now they were realizing that humanity was not as weak as they had thought. Bonner felt a flicker of hope as the first Vrokan soldiers fell. Their armor couldn't protect them from the sheer determination of the humans fighting to survive. The humans fought with everything they had, driven by the need to protect their home. They were willing to die for a chance at victory. But the odds were still stacked against them. The Vrokan were relentless. For every Vrokan soldier they took down, 2 more seemed to take their place. The Vrokan quickly adapted to the humans' guerrilla tactics, sending drones and reinforcements to track down the cloaked humans. The element of surprise was slipping away. Bonner and his team were being pushed back. In the midst of the chaos, Bonner saw one of his closest friends, a soldier named Rhodes, go down. A Vrokan soldier had fired a shot straight at him, and he didn't stand a chance. Bonner rushed over to help, but it was too late. Rhodes lay there, motionless. Bonner's chest tightened with grief, but there was no time to mourn. The battle was far from over, and every moment counted. The squad was dwindling. One by one, soldiers were falling. The Vrokan had started using their superior intelligence and resources to track down the humans. Bonner's squad was now the last remaining group of human resistance fighters in the area. They were surrounded, with no way out. The fight was becoming more desperate by the minute. Bonner's mind raced as he considered their next move. They had no more tricks left, no more cloaking devices, no more EMPs. They had only their courage and their will to fight. The Vrokan had thought humanity would bow before their might, but Bonner wasn't going to let that happen. He would fight until the very last breath. But then, an idea came to him, one that he knew would cost lives. The Vrokan were relentless, but they also had weaknesses. Their communication systems were centralized, and if Bonner could disrupt them, it might give the humans a chance to strike at their heart. It was a dangerous mission, and Bonner knew that it would likely cost the lives of a few soldiers, but it was the only way to turn the tide. There was no other option. Bonner quickly gathered his squad and explained the plan. It wasn't easy. The men and women around him had already seen so much loss, and asking them to risk their lives again felt almost cruel. But they knew the stakes. They understood that without this mission, humanity would have no chance at all. There was no time to waste. Bonner chose a few soldiers to accompany him, soldiers who were willing to face certain death for the greater good. With a heavy heart, Bonner sent the rest of his team to hold off the Vrokan forces, buying him and his small team the time they needed to carry out their mission. The rest of the soldiers were tasked with providing cover, sacrificing themselves to keep the Vrokan distracted long enough for the mission to succeed. The squad moved out quickly, their footsteps muffled by the thick underbrush of the forest. Bonner could hear the distant sounds of the battle: explosions, gunfire, and the unmistakable hum of Vrokan technology. They had little time, and they needed to move fast. The team navigated the forest, slipping past the Vrokan patrols that were scouring the area. Bonner's heart was heavy with the knowledge that some of his squadmates wouldn't make it back. But they didn't hesitate. They couldn't afford to hesitate. As they approached the Vrokan communication hub, the plan became even more dangerous. They had to infiltrate the heavily fortified facility, disable the communication systems, and escape before the Vrokan realized what had happened. The tension was unbearable as they moved closer. Bonner could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on him. This was it. This was humanity's last chance. They infiltrated the facility with precision, using their training to disable the security systems, and slipped past the Vroken guards. But as they made their way deeper into the heart of the compound, the alarm suddenly went off. The Vroken had detected their presence. The team was trapped. The battle that followed was brutal. The Vroken soldiers came at them in waves, their weapons powerful and deadly. Bonner and his team fought with everything they had, their guns firing, their knives slashing, and their bodies moving on instinct. But the Vroken were too many, and Bonner knew that this might be the end for him and his squad. As the fighting raged on, Bonner's mind was focused solely on the mission. He had to complete it, no matter the cost. With a final push, Bonner reached the control panel and activated the device that would disable the Vroken's communication systems. He could hear the shouts of his squad mates as they fought to cover him, buying him the precious seconds he needed. The explosion rocked the facility as the communications went down. The Vroken were momentarily disoriented, their forces thrown into chaos. Bonner knew that this would buy the human resistance a crucial moment to strike back. But as the dust settled, he looked around to find that his team had paid the ultimate price. They had given their lives for humanity's survival. The battle was far from over, and Bonner knew that the war would continue. But as the last of his team fell, he felt a surge of hope. The Vroken had been thrown off balance, and humanity's resistance was far from finished. There was still a chance, no matter how small, for humanity to rise again. The battle seemed lost. Earth was falling to the Vroken, and humanity's resistance was nothing more than a series of desperate, last-ditch efforts to delay the inevitable. Bonner stood in the heart of the destruction, his mind clouded with the weight of his decisions, the faces of the soldiers who had died, and the fear that humanity would not survive this war. The Vroken, with their sleek, advanced warships and their cold, calculated precision, had all but wiped out any hope left. Their forces had spread across Earth like a tidal wave, wiping out cities, military installations, and all human resistance. The air was thick with smoke, and the ground was littered with the wreckage of countless battles. It seemed as though the final act was upon them. But just when the weight of defeat seemed impossible to bear, something extraordinary happened. A sudden, unnatural silence fell over the battlefield. Bonner froze, the hairs on the back of his neck standing up as he looked around, confused. The Vroken ships, hovering in their usual formation, stopped firing, their weapons going dark. It was as if the whole world held its breath for a single, inexplicable moment. Then, without warning, a massive explosion of light erupted from the darkness of space. Bonner looked up, his eyes widening in disbelief. A fleet of massive human warships, each one more impressive than anything he had ever seen, appeared from the depths of space. These ships, long hidden, had been waiting for this moment. Cloaked in advanced technology, they had been concealed far away from the reach of the Vroken forces, waiting for the right time to strike. And now, that time had come. The sight was overwhelming. The massive human warships decloaked in an instant, revealing their sleek, battle-ready designs. They were equipped with cutting-edge weaponry and technology, far more advanced than anything the Vroken had seen. The human fleet, now numbering in the hundreds, was a testament to the resilience and determination of humanity. These ships, once thought to be lost or forgotten, were humanity's hidden weapons, kept in secret for years, biding their time in the deepest corners of space, ready for the moment when they would turn the tide of the war. Bonner couldn't believe his eyes. His heart raced as the first wave of human warships opened fire. The assault was swift and brutal. The Vroken, unprepared for the sudden onslaught, were caught off guard. Their fleet, which had once seemed so powerful, now looked vulnerable under the surprise attack. Explosions erupted across the sky as human warships fired powerful energy blasts, tearing apart the Vroken ships with ease. The Vroken, stunned and confused, tried to regroup, but it was too late. The human fleet was already engaged, and they were relentless. The humans had come prepared, with an arsenal of technology that gave them a distinct advantage. Bonner, who had thought this battle would be his last, now found himself in a new position of command. He was leading the Special Strike Force, a small, elite team tasked with coordinating the next phase of the attack. With the Vroken disoriented, Bonner and his squadron moved in with precision. They knew this was their moment, and they could not afford to waste it. The human fleet was pushing forward, destroying Vroken ships one by one, but Bonner knew they had to act fast. The element of surprise was the humans' greatest weapon, and they needed to use it to its fullest advantage. As Bonner's strike force moved in on the Vroken's remaining warships, the tension was palpable. The air was thick with anticipation as the human fleet's tactics became evident. The Vroken had always relied on brute force, on their sheer numbers and technology to win battles. But the humans had a different strategy. They used their agility, their tactical genius, to outmaneuver the Vroken at every turn. Every move Bonner made was calculated, designed to throw the Vroken off balance and create openings for the human fleet to exploit. The first battle in space was a blur of lasers, energy shields, and explosions. Bonner's team moved through the chaos, each strike a calculated risk. The Vroken fleet was crumbling under the pressure, and Bonner could feel the momentum shifting. The humans had the upper hand now, and for the first time in months, Bonner allowed himself to feel hope. It was fleeting, but it was there. He saw his squad mates exchange glances, their expressions a mixture of disbelief and excitement. They were fighting for their lives, but now they were also fighting for something greater, the survival of humanity. For a brief moment, Bonner was reminded of all the things they had lost, the soldiers who had died, the cities that had fallen, the lives that had been shattered. But in the midst of the chaos, he also saw the glimmer of something powerful. Humanity wasn't just fighting to survive anymore. They were fighting to win. Bonner's strike force, now working alongside the newly revealed human fleet, tore through the remaining Vroken defenses. The Vroken, once so confident in their victory, now realized they were up against something far greater than they had anticipated. These humans were not just desperate survivors. They were prepared, they were organized, and they were not about to let their world be taken without a fight. The tide of battle began to turn, and Bonner could feel it in his bones. The Vroken had made a fatal mistake. They had underestimated humanity. As Bonner led his strike force into the heart of the Vroken fleet, he saw the signs of the Vroken beginning to panic. Their ships faltered, their commands becoming more disorganized, their forces scattering under the pressure of the unexpected assault. It was clear now. The humans were not going to be easily defeated. With their hidden fleet now fully revealed, humanity had the advantage they needed to press forward. The Vroken, in their arrogance, had assumed they would crush the humans with ease. But now, they were facing a force that had been biding its time, preparing for this exact moment. The humans' resolve was unwavering. They had come from the brink of annihilation to this moment of victory, and they weren't going to let it slip away. Bonner, now at the helm of the assault, felt an intense emotional weight bearing down on him. The soldiers around him had fought through hell, lost comrades, and watched their world burn. But now, they had something that the Vroken didn't, the will to fight, to push through even the darkest of times. Bonner exchanged looks with his team, their faces a mixture of disbelief, hope, and determination. They had made it this far. They couldn't stop now. The Vroken, as powerful as they were not prepared for this kind of warfare. The humans were using everything they had: cloaking devices, EMP weapons, and the full force of their newly revealed fleet to keep the Vroken on the defensive. Bonner and his team, once part of the underdog resistance, were now leading the charge to end the war. The emotional weight of it all was almost too much to bear. They had come so close to losing, but now they had a chance to win. The Vroken were beginning to falter, their fleet crumbling under the unexpected force of the human retaliation. The odds had shifted, and Bonner could feel the power of hope surging through him. Humanity was not finished. The Vroken had underestimated them, and now the human fleet was proving that the greatest strength of all was their unyielding will to survive. Bonner and his squadron pressed forward, guiding the strike force with precision, and the battle raged on. The fight for Earth was not over, but with each passing moment, the balance of power was tilting in humanity's favor. The war was no longer about survival. It was about victory, and Bonner was determined to see it through to the end. The victory, though fleeting, had sparked a new sense of hope. Humanity had struck back, delivering a devastating blow to the Vroken, forcing them into retreat for the first time in the war. But Bonner knew that this moment of triumph would not last. The Vroken were powerful, relentless, and they were not ones to simply accept defeat. He could already feel the tension building, the sense that the war was far from over. It came sooner than anyone expected. The battle intensified. Orbital bombardments rocked the human fleet, sending ships tumbling out of formation and into the fiery abyss of space. The Vroken were everywhere, their advanced ships cutting through the human ranks with deadly precision. The humans had no choice but to fight back with everything they had. But with every passing minute, more and more ships were destroyed. More and more lives were lost. Bonner's squadron was down to just a handful of soldiers. They were outnumbered and outgunned, but they fought on. There was no turning back now. Bonner, his heart heavy with grief and rage, gave the order to fall back. It was a painful decision, but they couldn't keep pushing forward without reinforcements. The human fleet was in disarray, and their strength was rapidly dwindling. Every second felt like an eternity, but Bonner knew they needed to regroup. They had to survive, or all the sacrifices would be for nothing. As the remnants of the human fleet retreated, Bonner looked out over the battlefield. The Vroken were not finished with them. They would come again, stronger than before. The war was far from over. But Bonner's determination had only grown. He had lost comrades, friends, and he had seen the toll the war had taken on Earth. But he would not let the Vroken win. Not now. Not ever. With a heavy heart and a burning resolve, Bonner prepared for what was to come. The counterattack had failed, but this was not the end. It was just the beginning of the final push. Humanity's fight for survival was far from over, and Bonner was ready to lead the charge. They would rise again, stronger, fiercer, and more determined than ever to reclaim their home. The air was thick with tension. The final battle was upon them, the last chance to break the Vroken's iron grip on humanity. Bonner stood at the helm of the human fleet, looking out at the vastness of space. The battle ahead was not just a fight for survival. It was the culmination of everything they had fought for. The sacrifices of countless soldiers, the devastation of their cities, and the loss of loved ones. Now, they had one last shot at victory. The Vroken, relentless and arrogant, had revealed their trump card, a massive AI-controlled superweapon, the likes of which humanity had never seen. The weapon was designed to obliterate entire fleets in mere seconds. It was their ultimate weapon, their way to ensure humanity would be wiped from the stars. The Vroken believed that with this weapon, they were unstoppable. But Bonner and the human fleet were determined to prove them wrong. The plan was simple but dangerous. The human fleet had developed a strategy to counter the superweapon's deadly precision targeting. They would use their knowledge of the Vroken's tactics and technology to create a window of opportunity, one small chance to strike at the heart of the Vroken's fleet. The Vroken had underestimated humanity's ability to adapt, but Bonner knew they had one key advantage: the human spirit. Bonner's role was crucial. He would lead a team on a daring infiltration mission to board the Vroken command ship, the source of the superweapon's power. The mission was risky, and success was far from guaranteed, but it was humanity's only hope. He gathered his team, a handful of soldiers who had survived the worst of the war, each one a warrior in their own right. They were ready, but Bonner could see the fear in their eyes. This mission would decide everything. The human fleet moved into position, engaging the Vroken forces in a fierce battle. The Vroken, caught off guard by the sudden assault, retaliated with their advanced weaponry. Explosions rocked the battlefield as ships darted between the debris, trying to avoid the Vroken's relentless fire. Bonner's heart pounded in his chest as the fleet clashed. Every moment felt like a lifetime. He knew that this was the moment they had all been waiting for, the final confrontation. As the battle raged, Bonner and his team made their way to the Vroken's command ship, cloaking their vessel to avoid detection. The ship was a fortress, its corridors dark and ominous. Inside, alien soldiers moved silently, their footsteps echoing in the metal halls. Bonner's team moved swiftly, knowing they had little time before the Vroken realized what was happening. They fought their way through the corridors, each step a fight for their lives. The air was thick with tension as they approached the heart of the ship, the control room where the superweapon was housed. The Vroken soldiers, highly trained and fiercely loyal, were not easy opponents. They were relentless, attacking with precision and speed. Bonner and his team fought back, using their wits and their skills to stay one step ahead. The sound of gunfire echoed through the hallways as they moved deeper into the ship. Bonner's breath came in short gasps as they reached the command center. The door was guarded by a group of Vroken soldiers, their weapons aimed at the intruders. Bonner signaled to his team, and they charged, engaging in close-quarters combat. Blades clashed, gunshots rang out, and the air was filled with the sounds of battle. The Vroken were powerful, but the humans fought with an intensity that the aliens could not match. Bonner, moving with precision and purpose, cut down his opponents one by one. His mind was focused, every thought centered on the task at hand. Disable the superweapon before it was too late. Finally, they'd reached the control room. The Vroken leader, a cold and calculating being, stood at the center of the room, overseeing the operation of the superweapon. His eyes were cold, his expression devoid of emotion as he watched the destruction unfold on the screens before him. The Vroken leader believed in the superiority of AI, in the cold logic and precision of machines. He saw humans as nothing more than primitive creatures, unworthy of the stars. But Bonner knew differently. He knew that humanity's strength lay in its heart, its will to survive, and its ability to fight against all odds. The Vroken leader turned as Bonner and his team entered the room. For a moment, there was a tense silence. The leader studied Bonner, his eyes narrowing. "You think you can stop it?" he asked, his voice cold and unfeeling. "You are nothing compared to the might of the Vroken. The AI will wipe you out. It is inevitable." Bonner's voice was steady, though his heart raced. "I'm not here to stop it. I'm here to end it." With those words, the battle between them began, a clash of wills, a fight for the future of humanity. The Vroken leader activated the superweapon, and Bonner could feel the immense power building in the room. It was almost overwhelming, the hum of energy filling the air. But Bonner wasn't afraid. He had faced death countless times before, and he wasn't about to let the Vroken's arrogance destroy everything he had fought for. The leader, with a cold smile, activated the superweapon's targeting systems. The ship trembled as the weapon powered up, ready to unleash its destructive force. Bonner knew this was his last chance. He had no more time to waste. With a surge of energy, Bonner lunged at the leader, tackling him to the ground. The two struggled, their bodies crashing into the walls of the control room. The Vroken leader fought back, his strength and speed surprising Bonner, but the human soldier refused to back down. He had something the Vroken would never understand: pure, unyielding determination. In the heat of the struggle, Bonner managed to disable the leader's control panel, causing the weapon's targeting systems to malfunction. But there was still one more step to take. The only way to destroy the weapon completely was to destroy the ship itself. Bonner made the desperate decision to sacrifice his own ship. He ordered his remaining squadron to retreat, and with a final, determined look at his comrades, Bonner piloted his ship straight into the heart of the Vroken command vessel. The explosion was deafening, a blinding flash of light that tore through the enemy ship. The superweapon was destroyed in a massive burst of energy, and the Vroken's grip on the galaxy was broken. As Bonner's ship was consumed in the explosion, the human fleet delivered the final blow to the Vroken Armada. The battle was won, and the Vroken were defeated. Humanity had prevailed. Bonner's sacrifice had ensured their survival. Though he was gone, his legacy lived on. The Vroken had underestimated humanity's will to fight, and now they had paid the price. The war was over, and Earth was free once more. The war was over, but the battle to rebuild had just begun. The aftermath of the Vroken defeat left Earth scared but not broken. The human race, which had once been on the brink of extinction, now stood as a symbol of defiance and resilience in the galaxy. As the dust settled, the surviving soldiers gathered, their faces etched with exhaustion and sorrow. They had won, but at a great cost. Bonner, the hero who had led them through the darkest hours, was gone. His sacrifice, though, had secured humanity's victory. His final desperate act of piloting his ship into the heart of the Vroken command vessel had been the turning point of the war. Without him, humanity would have fallen. The memory of Bonner lived on in the hearts of his comrades and in the hearts of every human who had fought alongside him. As the surviving soldiers stood in the silence of the battlefield, the weight of their loss was felt by everyone. The names of the fallen heroes echoed in their minds. Bonner, his comrades, and the countless others who had given their lives for this victory. They had fought with everything they had, and though the war had ended, the grief of their losses remained. There was no joy in victory, only a deep sense of gratitude for those who had sacrificed their lives for the greater good. It was time for the human race to heal, to rebuild what had been destroyed. The hidden fleets, long kept in secret to ensure humanity's survival, were now revealed to the public. The news of the hidden armada sent shockwaves across the galaxy. The Vroken had underestimated humanity, believing them to be weak and primitive. Now, they saw the truth. Humanity was a force to be reckoned with, capable of fighting back and winning, no matter the odds. With the Vroken defeated, Earth stood as a new power in the galaxy. The once feared aliens had been driven back, and humanity had emerged victorious. The hidden fleets, powerful and advanced, were now a testament to the ingenuity and determination of the human race. The technology that had been developed in secret was now available for all to see. The weapons that had turned the tide of battle were now in the hands of Earth's leaders, and humanity was poised to make its mark on the galaxy. But the victory was bittersweet. The cost had been high. The loss of Bonner and his comrades weighed heavily on everyone. Their sacrifice had saved humanity, but it had also left a deep scar in the hearts of those who remained. They had fought as underdogs, but now they would rebuild as a force to be reckoned with. The path forward would not be easy. There was much work to be done, and many challenges ahead. A memorial was built in Bonner's honor. It stood in the heart of the rebuilt Earth, a peaceful tribute to the fallen hero and the soldiers who had given their lives. People gathered there, their faces filled with respect and admiration. It was a place where they could remember those who had fallen in the fight for humanity's survival, and it was a place where they could find hope for the future. As the memorial service began, a quiet reverence filled the air. People spoke of Bonner's bravery, his leadership, and his sacrifice. They shared stories of the battles they had fought together, of the moments of fear and courage, of the friendships that had been forged in the heat of battle. Bonner had been more than a soldier. He had been a symbol of humanity's strength, a reminder that even in the face of overwhelming odds, they could stand tall. The final lines of the memorial speech echoed across the gathered crowd, resonating with hope and determination. We fought as the underdog, and we won. This is just the beginning of humanity's place in the galaxy. Those words carried with them a sense of promise, a sense that humanity's journey was far from over. The war with the Vroken had been won, but there were still new frontiers to explore, new challenges to face, and new enemies to confront. The galaxy was vast, and humanity had only just begun to carve its place within it. As the ceremony came to a close, the people of Earth looked to the future. They had come through the fire of war, and now it was time to build. There was much work to be done. Cities to rebuild, resources to recover, and technology to develop. But there was also a renewed sense of purpose, a shared belief that humanity had earned its place in the stars. The war had taught them something invaluable. That no matter how powerful the enemy, no matter how impossible the odds, humanity would never give up. They had proven it in the fight against the Vroken, and they would continue to prove it in the future. In the days that followed, Earth began to rebuild. The surviving humans returned to their homes, working together to restore what had been lost. The hidden fleets, now fully integrated into the human military, provided the foundation for a new era of exploration and defense. Humanity was no longer just a small, vulnerable planet in the vast expanse of space. They were a power to be reckoned with, ready to face whatever challenges the galaxy might throw their way. As Bonner's memorial stood as a silent testament to humanity's triumph, the people of Earth knew that their victory was not just about defeating the Vroken. It was about proving to the galaxy that they would not be underestimated. It was about showing that even in the darkest of times, humanity would rise, fight, and prevail. The future was uncertain, but humanity was no longer the underdog. The Vroken had learned that lesson the hard way, and now the galaxy would have to do the same. Earth was not just a survivor of war. It was a force for peace, a beacon of hope in a galaxy full of uncertainty. The future was theirs to shape, and they would do it together. In the quiet aftermath of the battle, as the stars gleamed above, humanity stood tall. Their place in the galaxy had been earned, and they would never forget the cost of their victory. The memory of those who had fallen, and the spirit of those who had fought, would guide them forward as they charted their path into the unknown. Humanity's place in the galaxy had just begun, and the stars, once distant and cold, now seemed a little closer.